we're fired up today because Rob Wittman is with us, Congressman, Republican, First District, the Northern Neck through Fredericksburg and Stanton. And he knows this area well, and he loves creating jobs as a congressman. He's also the ranking member of the all powerful Sea Power Committee in the House of Delegates, part of the defense team. And when the Republicans take over in 2020, then he'll be chairman of that subcommittee again. And he is with us now, Congressman Wittman. Great to have you.
Good morning, John. Great to be back with you.
So, Congressman, I thought I was going to have to get up early tomorrow and go cover this convention, but Jack Wilson and the Republican Party of Virginia canceled it. So there is no convention. And guess what? We get to have an open primary. Isn't that a great thing, Congressman? A primary where anybody can come and participate and not get shoved to the side.
Well, John, as you know, this is a decision that's to be made by the 97th District Legislative District Committee. There's been a lot of back and forth in this. As you know, I have remained neutral in this. I believe strongly that decisions are to be made by our local units, whether it's the 1st District Congressional Committee or whether it's the 97th Legislative District Committee. I believe that the state party needs to carry out the state party plan specifically in how it's written there, and that's where things stand. I know there's been a lot of back and forth in this, and I've been very, very specific in remaining neutral in this.
Okay, so we appreciate your neutrality. So what happens now? I mean, they say they're going on with the convention, but there is no convention. So how do you have a convention if it's not sanctioned?
Well, again, this is under the total jurisdiction of the 97th Legislative District Committee. So I have no role in that, being a member of U.S. Congress and the 1st District Committee, which again is in line. If there is an appeal on this, the 1st District Committee would be in line after an appeal would be heard by the 97th Legislative District Committee. So actually, for me individually, I have no jurisdiction over this, and I believe strongly that decisions are to be made by the units that have the power to do that, and that is the 97th Legislative District Committee.
Right, and they made the decision to not go forward with this convention for a variety of reasons, and to go forward with a June 1st firehouse primary. So, and the position that the Republican Party of Virginia Chairman Jack Wilson took is that according to the Republican Party of Virginia party plan, that the 97th District Committee had the power to do that and change it in the final hour. That's what he said in his statement.
Well, I think obviously there's a lot of back and forth in this about changes on the committee, how those things took place. Again, all of those decisions, everything that plays out here, John, needs to be ultimately decided by the Hanover Committee, who is in charge of appointing their individual to the 97th Legislative District Committee. The decision of the 97th Legislative District Committee, and if people don't agree with those, they have the ability to go ahead and appeal those decisions, and that's where the whole process is. I know I've gotten a number of phone calls from people stating their concerns about it, and as I have pointed out, again, it's a decision to be made by the local committees, by the 97th Legislative District Committee, and the party plan is to be followed. I know there's been some back and forth too in conversations about Chairman Wilson. So I think all of those things are to be adjudicated by those individual bodies, by the local committees, by the 97th Legislative District Committee. If it's appeal, the 1st District Congressional Committee would have a role in an appeal. And again, we have great folks there that are chairmen and chairwomen of our local committees. They would be the ones to make the decision there. And then ultimately, if the appeal goes further, it would go to the state central committee.
All right, so the bottom line is I get to sleep in tomorrow because I'm not covering a convention that's not sanctioned. So that's the good news for me. Congressman Rob Wittman, thank you for that explanation. Now let's get on. We got to get on to politics, Venezuela, but some fun stuff. So Rosie's Gaming Emporium and Colonial Downs, right in your neck of the woods here, reopened. And the Fräulein and I, my wife Ann, having a suite here on August 10th. We would love for Dr. Wittman, you and Catherine to join us on the 10th if you are available for that.
Well, John, listen, I really appreciate the invitation on the 10th. I have a number of other commitments that we have made and traveling around the district, but I know that you all have a grand time there, and we are very happy to have Colonial Downs reopening. As you said, a big impact of the area as far as jobs and opportunities for folks, and it's really an exciting time. I know I had a chance to go by there and visit with the new owners to look at the plans that they have for that facility, and I think it'll bring a lot of economic development back to New Kent County. It will be a shot in the arm economically for that region, and I think everybody in the area as well as the Commonwealth is excited about having the Colonial Downs track reopened.
It's exciting, and 1,500 jobs, Congressman Wittman, right off the bat. Okay, let's get to the issues of the day. Let's start with the Jerry Nadler Clown Show going on in Congress. That's my description of it. I don't know how you feel about it. But why should Bill Barr have to testify? Why can't Nadler ask his own questions? Why do they have to have staff members and outside lawyers come in? Why can't Nadler ask the questions? Why can't the people on the committee ask the questions? When you were chairman of your own of the subcommittee on Sea Power Readiness and you had a hearing, you and your ranking member asked the questions as the other members. Why do they have to have outside people come in?
They shouldn't. The committees are meant for the members of Congress to question the witnesses. And with Attorney General Barr coming in, it should be a situation, just as he did in the Senate, for him to come in and answer questions posed to him by members of Congress. The members of Congress have these lawyers, these individuals that are on staff that Chairman Nadler has now said are going to ask questions for extended periods of time. Those individuals write the questions for their members of Congress, so the members of Congress can answer, can ask the same questions. I think that's the way the process is designed. I understand that members are limited to 5 minutes per member. I think that's realistic. The lawyers would be able to question for hours on end, and that's not the way these hearings are set up. This is supposed to be transparent. It's supposed to be where members of Congress are there representing their constituents and asking the questions. That's the way the system is designed to work. It's designed to work with that transparency. It's designed to work with that accountability to members of Congress who are elected to serve in those roles. They're the ones that should be thinking about the questions, should interact with whoever the witness is, whether it's Attorney General Barr or others. So I believe that that's the way it should go. I fully understand Attorney General Barr's determination to say, under those conditions, I will not testify. I think that there's an easy way to reach an agreement so that he can come in and testify. I think he wants to do that, but I think he wants to do so in a way that's productive, is transparent, and directly interacts with members of Congress who are elected and who have the direct constitutional responsibility in the role of oversight. The constitutional responsibility, John, is not in the hands of the lawyers on that committee. The responsibility is directly given to elected members of Congress who are accountable to the people who have elected them, who are accountable and given the statutory authority to do oversight. To me, it's pretty clear, simple, and straightforward.
Well, I think it is also, as you put that out. I mean, it's inconceivable to me that Nadler would have to bring in a bevy of outside people in order to ask a few questions. That's basically what his job is, and the other members of that committee. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network today, live at Colonial Downs and Rosie's Gaming Emporium. We're having so much fun today. Very hot. Also, 1,500 jobs created. And we're with Dr. Rob Wittman, and he is the ranking member on the subcommittee of Sea Power Readiness in Congress, Republican Congressman, 1st District in Virginia. Congressman, I'm going to get to Venezuela, and I'm going to play a couple clips for you. The first one is political. I really want to get your reaction. I played this to Sarah Sanders yesterday and got hers. This is your colleague from Minnesota, Representative Ilhan Omar, saying that the crisis in Venezuela is Trump's fault. Go ahead. Kiera, do we have that?
Thank you, Amy, for having me. It's really great to join you all this morning. I concur with what Professor Sachs was saying. A lot of the policies that we have put in place has kind of helped lead the devastation in Venezuela. And we've sort of set the stage for where we are arriving today. This particular bullying and the use of sanctions to eventually intervene and make regime change really does not help the people of countries like Venezuela, and it certainly does not help, and it's not in the interest of the United States. And I think finally we have folks in Congress that see what Professor Sachs was referencing.
Okay, so basically your colleague in Minnesota is saying the crisis in Venezuela, people starving, eating dogs on streets, the refugees, they're handing out food boxes, they have no electricity, they can't get medicine. Somehow that's Republicans' fault or Trump's fault. What do you make of this?
John, that is so far from what is actually happening there. Absolutely incorrect. The bottom line is this. President Nicolas Maduro is solely responsible for the conditions in his country. He is the leader in his country. There are things that he could do to support and take care of his people. He does not do that. We have seen there in Venezuela the complete and absolute failure to maintain the human condition, just basic human condition for people in his country because of the roots of socialism. That's what this is all about. And it's purely in the hands of Nicolas Maduro, who, by the way, is not the duly elected president of Venezuela. So the international community, overwhelmingly, with the exception of Cuba, Russia, and China, the international community does not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the president there. It recognizes Juan Guaido as the president. So here's the deal. The international community, along with the United States, is recognizing the duly elected president of Venezuela and is pursuing policies along those lines. But again, the plight of Venezuelans has everything to do with President Nicolas Maduro and the reprehensible efforts he is placing upon his people. John, do you realize that the average Venezuela here since Nicolas Maduro's reign has lost 20 pounds? I mean, that's an indication about how desperate the plight is of people that live in Venezuela. So make no mistake about it. This is purely about the form of government there in a nation that used to be the richest nation in South America, that today is in the plight that it's in, and still has massive resources there, that operates under a socialist form of government and with a repressive, despotic dictator in President Nicolas Maduro, period.
All right, here is President, I guess, in waiting, recognized by the United States and 60 other countries, Juan Guaido, saying that the armed forces of Venezuela are now softening with their allegiance to Maduro and listening to them. Here's Juan Guaido last night on Fox News. Kiera, cut 2.
The regime destroyed our oil company and our opportunities. Along with that, our opportunities for progress and growth. We want to maintain the best relations with the United States. And the Trump administrations, we need to thank them for their determination to defend democracy in our region. I think that's been very important. We remain in the streets because we remain united, and the armed forces are listening to us, this message of union, of progress. And it was very clear yesterday in the city of Caracas, in the center of power of Venezuela. So as long as we are mobilized and united, we are very close to achieving our freedom.
So the military, which has been loyal, Congressman Wittman, to Maduro now not standing in the way. And we also heard from Secretary Pompeo, who I know was your colleague when he was in the House, said that Maduro was getting on an airplane to go to Havana, and the Russian government called him up and cajoled him to stay there. That was a stunning development, and actually said publicly by Secretary of State Pompeo. What are the next steps here, sir?
Well, the next steps are for the Venezuela people to take action to recognize the duly elected president of Venezuela in Juan Guaido. As I said earlier, I gave Nicolas Maduro the term of president, but he's not actually president. He is the assumed president based on the military supporting him. And I think the duly elected president, Juan Guaido, is doing the right thing, talk with the military and saying, hey, listen, I am the duly elected leader of the country. Here are the things we need to do in order to make sure we put the power of the country back in the hands of the people. And that's where all of this should come from. Now, the United States, I think, can do some things to create pressure there. I do think this, John, I think we have to be extraordinarily careful about any use of military force. I mean, we've seen that in other situations where you go in and do that, and then the question is if there's no end game, if there's no objective as to what you're going to achieve, and then what happens if that were to be used. And I don't think that at this point it should be, but if it were to be used, again, we've seen these things happen before where the outcomes have not been really thought out, and then we find ourselves with military presence in an area. So I think this needs to be purely in the hands of the Venezuelan people. I think the duly elected President Juan Guaido is engaging with the people. I think he's got that support on his hands. The longer it goes on, though, the more concerned it is about Maduro trying to solidify his support with, again, Cuban military forces, Russian advisors on the ground there. So all those things, I think, need to be looked at very closely by the United States and what they do to put maximum amount of pressure on Nicolas Maduro to move out of his assumed position of the presidency and to recognize, as the international community does, Juan Guaido, the duly elected president of Venezuela.
That's going to be the final word, and I agree with you, Congressman, 100%. We don't need to get involved there in military. This has to be organic, and it has to come from within, not from without, because, as you said, we've been down this road now many times. None of it for us, for the United States, has turned out well, because there's never an end game. Congressman, thank you for being with us. Subcommittee ranking member of the Sea Power Committee, Rob Wittman, Republican, 1st District, Virginia. Sir, Dr. Wittman, thanks for being with us.
Thanks again, John. You and your listeners have a great weekend.